Good morning, board, staff, and members of the public. After my statement, the chairman will open this meeting and explain the rules for this electronic meeting. Please keep your microphone on mute when you are not speaking. The technical support team may proactively mute participants if the microphone is picking up background noise. Board members should check to make sure the microphone is not muted before speaking. You may text me at 540-336-3948 at any time during the meeting if you need technical assistance, and an IT tech will call your cell phone to assist. I now turn the meeting over to the committee chairman, Mr. Bonfils.
So I guess I get to open the meeting now and then read the chairman's statement, which is similar. In accordance with the governor's state of emergency declaration and executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors Continuity Ordinance and General Assembly 2020 Budget Amendments 28 and 137, Loudoun Water will meet today in an electronic meeting. In compliance with these special procedures, only action items necessary to continue operations of Loudoun Water and discharge its lawful purpose, duties, responsibilities will be discussed during today's meeting. Reports and other meeting information are available on board docs. Public notice of the meeting, access information was provided on the Loudoun Water website in accordance with the meeting available board docs, following link. I won't read the link. We all know that link, and it's available on the website. Board members wishing to speak are reminded to press unmute and identify themselves by name so that the staff can accurately capture comments. All items will be recommended to the October 8th, 2020 board meeting. The board secretary will now take roll call attendance of the committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Bonfils. Mr. Bonfils, of course. Mr.
Here.
Allen?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Sultan?
Here.
All the committee members are present, and Mr. Koblis is present as well.
Welcome, everyone. We will look at the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the agenda? I intend to, to go ahead.
So moved.
All right. I have a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second. We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Let's vote on the approval of the agenda.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Bonfils?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
And Mr. Sultan?
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right. On the agenda, we're going to review the draft charter that was sent out to everyone. Did everybody get a chance to read it?
Yes.
Yes, I saw.
Good.
Yep.
So I believe that Carla, did you say that you'd like to make a few comments about the charter?
Well, I just want to give an introduction to a presentation that we've prepared that we think will provide explanation into the charter before you take action on it. And so several months ago, probably almost a year ago, staff made the recommendation to the then chair, Kelly, and Vice Chair Kobelis, that there be a committee formed to really focus on operations, not necessarily day-to-day operations, but we spend a lot of time on finance and we spend a lot of time on engineering and construction related activities. And so there is a whole realm of other things that we do. And so a committee to talk through those things seemed to make sense to us. And so we thought the best way to walk through the charter was to provide this presentation by your committee contacts. That way you can get to know them and understand how their expertise fits into the purpose of this committee. And so with that, I would like to turn it over to Alton Eccles to start the presentation.
Hey, good morning, Chair Bonfils and members of the committee. I appreciate this opportunity this morning, and I'm pretty sure you all know me, but my name's Alton Eccles, and I currently serve as the Director of O&M Programs and Administration for Loudon Water. And I've been with the company now for a little over 7 years, nearly 7.5 years. And that's a little over half my career now. And I began working in the capital programs department within engineering and later transitioned to operations and maintenance. And I really wanted to start today by introducing my connection to this new committee. And in doing so, I wanted to kind of step you through a couple of things. Early in my tenure and shortly after joining Loudon Water, I was given this incredible opportunity to manage the Beaver Dam project. And in doing so, and this was shortly after our purchase of the assets from the city of Fairfax. And through this role, I was able to work through a comprehensive raw water supply system study that was really our first foray into looking at how we might best leverage these assets and really kind of adopt those into this burgeoning portfolio of water resources that we were collecting. And so I managed also the design of the Beaver Dam reconstruction and the refill pump station. And then I was able to participate in the community outreach and development of the Beaver Dam strategic concept plan, which, as you know, is a visionary document in terms of water resources management and community connections. And I believe this follows in a very rich tradition of Loudon Water's long-term visioning. And so it's this strategic outlook that is what I want to focus on here today in my next few statements at this inaugural meeting here for the Water Resources Committee. And so what I wanted to do was briefly step you through a few key milestones in Loudon Water's history. And really my hope is that we all leave here from today's meeting feeling charged with the committee's purpose, which is to accentuate this tradition of strategic long-term thinking in the field of water resources. And so I wanted to start by sharing an account by Horace Hallett. He was the first employee of the Loudoun County Sanitation Authority, and he penned a memorandum chronicling some of the authority's early history in 1979. This was 20 years after the authority was established. And this was a memo that was handed to me, and it's a document that still remains prominent within our records here at Loudon Water to this day. And so a few items of note in his memo, I have a couple of slides here. You know, he starts by talking about how in the wake of the federal government's decision to locate Dulles Airport in Loudoun County, you know, the Board of Supervisors became very much aware that there would be the necessity for additional services in the county, and prominent among those were water and wastewater services. And of course, this led to the authority's founding in 1959. And so this next part of the memo is my favorite. He wrote about the first real assignment to the authority from the Board of Supervisors was to work with the county attorneys handling this litigation that was going on between the Board of Supervisors and the town of Fairfax. And if you weren't aware, there was a lot of contention around the town of Fairfax having a plan to build its water supply in Loudoun. And so Fairfax actually condemned in 1957. And so the lawsuits that followed, actually both the Loudoun County Circuit Court and the Virginia Court of Appeals, they granted decisions in favor of the town of Fairfax. And what I really wanted to hone in on in his memo and of the early history is that he wrote that it was later learned in the court proceedings that the only way that Loudoun County could have prevented this was to have shown that there was a political subdivision which had developed a plan for the use of this source of water supply. And so I wanted to kind of pause here and reflect on this. You know, this was at the very inception of the authority that the board and us as staff gained a valuable lesson in the importance of strategic long-term planning for water resources. And really, as I interpret it, that's a culture that's continued here for over 60 years now. And so just a couple more things I wanted to kind of reflect now on over the decades that we've continued to demonstrate leadership in water resources. So a few examples: the purchase of our Ashburn campus in 1989, which was 20 years prior to the commissioning of the Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility. And that facility itself was state of the art. It meets stringent discharge limits of the Dulles Area Watershed Policy to protect water resources downstream. And it also blazed a trail in water reclamation, which further protects water quality, but also created this synergy with the local economy. And it's just something really that I think we all should be proud of. And then another example, we purchased the property adjacent to the town of Leesburg's water treatment plant in 1993. This was 25 years prior to the commissioning of Trap Rock. And, what then ensued was the journey of the Potomac Water Supply Program, Milestone Reservoir, future quarry reservoirs, and again, a system that has, essentially a net zero impact on the region's water supply. So again, showing leadership there in our foresight. And then so lastly, we purchased this Goose Creek system from the city in 2014. And further bolstering water resources for our customers, but potentially for the region. And so as I highlighted earlier in the early history, these things typically unfold over decades, and I feel that we're still very early in the process right now, and we have a lot to look forward to. The implementation of the Beaver Dam Strategic Concept Plan, the upcoming integration of the Goose Creek system with Trap Rock, and regional collaboration on water resources are just a few of the exciting prospects we have here to continue this water resources leadership. And so I wanted to kind of pause here. If there are any comments, then I'm going to hand it over to Pam Kennel to introduce herself and her role and the expertise that she's going to bring to this committee.
All right. Thanks, Elton. Good morning, committee. It's a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you this morning. My slide isn't advancing.
It's a nice slide, though.
It is lovely, isn't it? I'm not quite sure what I'm not doing.
Bear with us a minute, Pam. Sorry.
Okay. I'm sure it's me. You can see my little head dancing there.
It does look like she has control.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to exit the full screen and bring it back up.
Okay.
How about now?
There we go. Okay. So this lovely photograph is actually captured from downstream from our Broad Run discharge. And I think it's really important, just in note of this photo, that we think of Broad Run as another source of our, a source of supply as it flows downstream to Fairfax Water, but it is just yet another water resources that we are applying stewardship to. A tiny bit about my background, just to put some of my comments into perspective. As you know, I worked in consulting for a good 30 years, focusing on water resources, working from largely the New York area down to Florida. And during that time, I think it was about 2007 when I began to work for Loudon Water. And the focus of our work was to make a decision about purchasing additional water from Fairfax Water or whether to build your own Loudon Water's own water treatment facility. And so that study, as you know, springboarded the Potomac Water Supply Program. I was part of the team that helped pull together the permitting documents, the application, which was quite extensive, and the permitting documents to get the Potomac Water Supply Program permitted through DEQ. And so today we have a Virginia Water Protection Permit. It's a 15-year permit that we're going to be living with through construction of facilities as well as operation of facilities. So that is kind of what I did. And then I had the opportunity to come to Loudon Water and join the team here and focus on nurturing this burgeoning program of water resources. So um, Alton talked a bit about strategic and a long-term view, and I wanted to share with you just kind of the reminder of the strategic planning work that we did earlier in the year. And goal number 6 that we settled on was our effective water resources management goal. And that was all about ensuring sustainable supplies and stewardship of those water resources. And that was through focus on 3 primary objectives: high quality raw water, managing the use of our raw water sources, and engaging with key stakeholders to help influence policies and regulations and focusing on future water supply operations. I want to share with you just a few things. You may not be aware of many of the activities that staff conducts with that long-term focus on our water resources, and one of those has to do with is water quality. Water quality is paramount, and in order to ensure that we know what's going on, we have an active program of monitoring the reservoirs as well as the downstream ecosystems. We are continually focused on contaminants of emerging concern, and those a little short list there for you to see, but these are things that are not currently regulated, but that we know, or some of these are regulated, but some of those are in the process of being considered for regulation. And so we want to be assured that we understand how it might affect our system, our customers, and so we're continually looking at those. Our groundwater systems are special because they're not surface water. They aren't treated the same, and we have a good number of customers that rely on our groundwater systems. So we have a separate and complete program of looking at our groundwater systems. Oops. All right, it's like overkilling now when I told it to advance. There we go. Use of our raw water storage resources. You know, we need to make sure that we have an appropriate, an adequate supply or reliable supply to accommodate the growth that we foresee into the future. But as you know, we have enough potential raw water storage resources with the Luck quarry conversions that we anticipate over the future that we could likely participate in regional initiatives. And so we uh, have conversations about that with our regional partners, and we do a lot of work internally to look at potentials. And 2 of the primary uses of storage is for drought and low flow circumstances, as well as Potomac River contamination events. These make the storage assets particularly useful and valuable, and we need to take a lot of care in how we plan out their usage going into the future. One of the ways that we can accomplish all of these activities is through stakeholder engagement, and we have a number of very active partnerships, and we participate in a number of organizations that are particularly useful to Loudon Water and our customers. Um, we don't talk a lot about the Potomac Water DWISP is what we call it, but that's the Drinking Water Source Protection Partnership, and it's been going on for, gosh, I think it's 25 years now. Um, Actually, it's really impressive. It's a tri-state organization. We've got the federal government involved through US EPA Region 3. We've actually, I'm sorry, it's bigger than tri-state, isn't it? However you want to consider DC, Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia all participate in this. And it's quite a collection, collaborative work of water suppliers all the way up into the reaches of the headwaters of the Potomac River. Also with ICPRB, as you know, we work with the co-op of the 3 large water utilities, and there's always a lot of activity going on with that group. With the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, there are technical committees as well as policy committees that we participate in, and as well as communications committees. So quite a bit of activity that keeps us plugged in there. We have some of our most significant relationships with Luckstone and Nova Parks. Fairfax Water will forever be a strategic partner of ours since they provide over half of our water supply. And DEQ is frankly a partner that we work with for our water supply, for our groundwater systems, for our wastewater discharges, and our reclaimed water systems. So we nurture our relationships with DEQ, and in concert with all of the others, stakeholders are quite a significant part of what we do, nurturing these relationships for our water resources work. And this is a great and key time to hand this over to Sue.
All right. Thank you, Pam.
I may have accidentally progressed a slide.
Yeah, I was going to say it's one slide forward there. It's okay. It's just a very beautiful picture of Beaver Dam Reservoir. My name is Sue Crosby. I'm the Director of Communications. I think most of you know me. I've been with Loudon Water about 6 years, a little over 6 years now, but I've been in the field for over 20, most of my experience with trade associations. With Loudon Water, I oversee our communications program, our customer relations program, and also our education and outreach program, which I'm going to talk about today. So Pam and Alton set this up really, really nicely, talking about water resources management and our assets. And with that in mind, Loudon Water has a great opportunity to educate the community about all the great things that we're doing. We have a robust outreach and education program to help support regional efforts to educate and inform customers, stakeholders, elected officials, and the public about the value and importance of water. It really is a robust community engagement program. Our program really strives to articulate 3 main things. One is Loudon Water's primary role as a utility provider, and reinforcing that clean, safe water is essential to nearly every aspect of life, and to ensure water is available today and for future generations, the valuable resource must be protected, captured, cleaned, distributed, and recycled. The second is the critical importance of water resources management, which Pam touched on, and the effect that has on a healthy environment and healthy functional ecologies. And 3, that community stewardship of these precious resources, reducing negative impact on water resources is really a shared public responsibility. We all have a part in the water cycle. So all of this outreach and education programming that we do make water and Loudon Water more visible in the minds of community members, which is very important. And then back to the why. Why do we do this? We do this to engage, motivate, inform our customers and stakeholders about the value of water, the significance of protecting water resources, and also the importance of investing in the infrastructure that supports it all. And some of the strategies that we employ to help these messages resonate with our audience is we kind of use the what's in it for me principle. And what I mean by that is what does all this mean to our customers? And one of those things is personal, day-to-day activities and quality of life. Without access to sustainable water supply, our community would be at risk. Inadequate water and wastewater infrastructure would impact our homes, our businesses, medical facilities, schools, daycares, and fire protection, just to name a few. Secondly, public health protection. As you all know, our employees work 24/7, 365 days a year to ensure that our community has reliable access to safe, high-quality drinking water and an effective wastewater system that is most protective of public health and the environment. Thirdly is environmental protection. We want people to understand that personal water stewardship and source water protection ensures that water resources can be effectively managed without a negative environmental impact and then a higher cost to customers. Water is free, but the collection, transport, treatment of drinking water and wastewater is not. We are stewards of our customers' money, and we strive to be as judicious when it comes to spending it. And as you know, we have very competitive water rates among all the utilities in the region. So all that said, increased public awareness and access obviously supports and promotes safe interaction with water resources and encourages protection and conservation efforts. And so how do we share this message? And you've heard me say this many times before. We have the aquiary at our DCH headquarters at our main campus. We host 7,000 visitors to the indoor aquiary exhibit each year. We participate in school visits, attend HOA meetings. We engage in promotional campaigns with other utilities in the region, like Protect Your Pipes or Drug Take Back Day to protect our waterways. We have proactive online tools through our customer portal, LW Connect, to help customers understand their water usage and change their behaviors if they're noticing alarming usage. And then we demonstrate our on-the-go watershed model, which was in the slide before this one. Obviously, the typical communications channels, we have social media, website, bill stuffers, and we also have key roles in environmental, community, and school business groups in Loudoun County. And so some of the other things we do is to get our message across is share our water quality report. And these go to the customers who request them, and we also have these on our website. And then one of the big programs we will be working on is the Beaver Dam educational focus that we'll be talking about in this meeting and several meetings to come. So that was a really quick overview, and hopefully that you can see how the work that Alton, Pam, and I do will directly impact the and relate to the activities of this committee. This is just some potential future topics that we could touch upon in the coming meetings. I'm not going to read them, but we touched on a little bit of them in our presentations: contaminants of emerging concern, water quality reports, reports on water security and resiliency. So I'll let you kind of digest all that, and I'll pause here for some questions.
Does anybody have any questions for Pam as we go through this first part of the agenda? I'm going to pursue Ann or Pam. All right, let's keep going then. Thank you.
All right. Well, then the recommended motion is up on your screen, and that would be to approve and adopt the Water Resources Committee Charter.
I'll make a motion to approve the charter. Terry.
This is Marty. I second.
All right, we have a motion made and second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Mr. Bonfils?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Sultan?
Aye.
Unanimous, sir. Thank you.
Don't you find it interesting that in the other meetings we often say yes, but Terry starts it with aye and everybody follows? Thanks, Terry.
Yes. I'll say yes from now on.
All right. So That's the first part of it, to approve the charter. So thank you very much. I think we wanted to, on the agenda, I had some of the items to discuss would be some, we include a little bit of background from Dale before we go in, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the vision. But my vision for this committee is really to be an extension of the outreach of the community, our ratepayers, and letting our ratepayers know what we do in the community and how they can actually have an input. So that's a big part of what I see this committee can do and function. Many of our other committees were very much involved with CIP and finance. This one, it will be very community oriented. So I think on the, we're talking the special projects. I think Dale had a few words that he'd like to give us. Dale, are you there?
I am to get my
Okay.
mug up. Yes, I
There he is.
Sorry, I just wanted to comment on what you just heard, and I think this committee is important and new and different in a way that it can focus on some of these very important long-term and strategic water resources issues and projects. And I can tell you that there's a lot going on. It's not particularly urgent, like many things that we deal with, but it is very, very important. And sometimes those non-urgent matters get pushed to the wayside, but that's not the case here. I'll also add that I think that Loudon Water has been a leader in really pursuing and pushing others to evaluate and consider raw water resource options. So in the coming months, you'll hear a lot more about this. And I think all of that is sort of, blind to a lot of leaders and customers, but it's important that as we move forward, they understand why these raw water resources are so important over the next long period of time. I think of water supply in terms of 24 hours a day forever. Long-term supply is very important. With that, I encourage you and happy to see that you're together to stay on top of all of these things and look forward to continued success for not only Loudon Water, but the whole region. You're well positioned to assist and participate and lead what I consider to be the water resources for the world's most important capital region. And that's no small matter to consider. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chairman, for the next item on the agenda.
All right. Well, the next item on the agenda was to talk a little bit about the assignment we received from the full board, which is to look a little more closely and participate in the Reservoir Park project. So we need to talk a little bit of an overview, where we are, how we got here, and then move on into budget processes and discussion topics about schedule and other important items. And of course, one of the main things for the Reservoir Park was education. And then as we move into future meetings, I tend to like these meetings to be about an hour. They're hard to keep there, so we may have to break up the different topics. But in the overview, where we are and how we got there, Carla has assigned that. Carla, again, who did you assign that to for today?
Well, actually, what we prepared, since this was the kickoff meeting for the committee, we were not prepared to dive into the special project, but rather kick off the committee, get your charter approved, and then present to you what we came up with as a draft agenda for your next meeting. And we would envision that your next meeting is focused solely on Reservoir Park. And these are the topics that we would propose to cover. We would like some feedback or any questions on the agenda so that we can then, get off and prepare for that meeting. And of course, you'll want to set that meeting if that's the course you want to take. You can set that date today.
That makes a lot of sense. I don't know why I was wanting to have all this done today. There's a lot. There's a lot of this draft agenda that we talked about. So let's go around the board and see what input we get from them. I think this is, for the Reservoir Park. This is a good work project, and this is more than just one meeting when I look at these 5 items. Brent, do you have some comments about this approach?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Thanks, Carla. I'm looking at what you've got here. I mean, the only thing that I would suggest, I mean, these are very broad topics, so I think obviously they could encompass a whole lot of different things, and they're all good topics to discuss here. The only thing that I'd probably, I mean, we're over budget, so that's obviously something that we want to try to get under budget. So that's something that, and you have it listed here, so that's great. But that I envision us spending some time on that and trying to brainstorm a little bit. What can we do to maybe save a little cost here and there? So that's certainly an important thing. Another thing that I think is important is talking about the bike infrastructure. This is really a special and unusual opportunity. Being within the bike shed of a metro that connects to the whole region is really unique. With the comprehensive plan that the county spent 4 years going back and forth. I know Jim was involved with it with his time on the Parks and Rec board. But the biking, the infrastructure, how people bike here, how people park, how people move around, that's an important thing that I think we should dive into more. I looked at the drawings that you all provided. Thank you for that. One of the sections, it's got all the pavilions, and it depicts cars. There's cars all next to all the pavilions, and that's fine. I mean, I understand that people park and drive, but we have many. There's 8,000 people just at Brambleton, and the county created these new urban policy areas, and those are within a mile from here, and so. When the county talks about where are people going to come, where are new houses going to be built, schools and all this stuff, it's all here. And, probably one of the number one things you hear from people living in Loudoun County as a complaint is the traffic. But we have a unique opportunity that's environmentally friendly, that protects water quality for people to get around on bikes. But if the infrastructure isn't there, it's not going to be possible. And we've seen that with this COVID lockdown. A lot of people want to get out and ride their bikes. I've been to a lot of bike shops around here, and the business that they've been doing is incredible. They can't keep enough bikes in the store. People are buying them off the shelf. The bike repair guys are working overtime, just trying to keep these bikes in service. But then the other problem we have is that people are riding their bikes on the roads, because when they go on the sidewalk, people are walking and it's conflicting there. We've had this problem in Lansdowne. It's even been discussed at the HOA. We've got some paths here, but it just hasn't been working with the increase in people biking. And so anyhow, we have a great opportunity here to do something special, and something that I think we ought to talk about. It's very important in the community. It's very popular, and it fits really nicely with our mission of education and protecting water resources.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Actually, well, first of all, you noted that this agenda is pretty generic, and so we have considered the bike paths, trails, things like that, really kind of under those site specifics that we would talk about. So it is in our mind to talk about those things, bring those forward to the committee. We've also talked to County Parks and Rec, Steve Torby, about possibly coming to your committee, making a presentation on how all of this fits together and what role we can play in that. So it is on our radar. It's just not specifically listed on the agenda. But thank you for that.
Yes, thanks, Brent. You, with your comments about bikes, I walk to the metro station about twice a week or more. It's a little less than a mile from the house, but actually I'm closer to Reservoir Park, so I walk there also a couple of times a week. And I started counting wherever I go, any public facility I start counting bike racks. And there are only they use the loops these days, so you can park on 2 on the side. There's only 12 at the metro station. So we may have to talk to Metro too. So.
Mr. Bonfield, Mr.
Yes.
Kobliss, and Mr. Sultan both have their hands up, sir.
Okay, so let's go to Mr. Kobliss first.
Hey, thanks, Jim. I just want to make sure, I know I'm not on the committee, but I just want to make sure that we get adequate information prior to the meeting, such as if we're going to talk about the budget, I'd like detailed explanation of where we are on the budget so that we can review it before the meeting. That's all.
Do you mean before this next meeting? Because we're talking about the work project and the next, unless we have another meeting before the next board meeting, we wouldn't be ready for this and to that discussion probably until the November meeting.
No, I'm only talking about for the next Water Resources Committee meeting. If they're going to talk about the budget, I want to have something to review prior to the meeting.
Yes, I agree. Yes, so our work for this meeting is to have approved our agenda and send it on to the full board. And now we're talking about our work project, right? There was Jewel. Who else had their hand raised? Somehow.
Mr. Sultan.
Mr. Sultan.
I just wanted to follow up on Brent. As an avid bike rider myself, just want to make sure that big organizations are involved with the county and this bike paths. Like I belong to the Potomac Peddlers, which is a huge organization, and just wanted to follow up if these organizations get involved with this.
That's great. There is a tremendous amount of interest in biking and hiking and trails. On the Parks and Rec planning meeting they had last night, 300 people joined.
I think still need this.
I'm sorry?
I'm sorry.
Oh, via Zoom meeting, which was kind of incredible. So but the number one item, 73% voted as their top item was trails. So there's tremendous interest in this, and we'll have to have that discussion.
Mr. Bonfield's, Mr. Hamas's hand is up.
Okay. Dale?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the whole conversation, and someone noted that these are high-level topics, these 5. There's a lot of detail in each one of them, and I also heard you say you wanted to try to keep these committee meetings to an hour.
Yes.
So I don't think you're going to be able to execute this entire agenda at your next meeting. So my question is to give some thought to perhaps the overview is very important to start with. I think that will generate questions, thoughts, ideas that we'll follow up on, and maybe picking another topic that will kind of mesh with that. Budget is important. I think the budget at this point in the project is something that we can certainly talk about, but the budget is a process as we refine it, as we move forward with more details. As an example, we're just just starting construction documentation. So there'll be a lot of more detail coming forward to inform the budget as that moves forward. So I'm trying to pick an order here that we can give you a healthy work plan for your next meeting, because I don't think you can take all this on in your next.
No, I was thinking that item 1 is a meeting in itself. The next one would be item 2, and item 3 would be another meeting. And item 4 would be a meeting, and item 5, obviously, is the future of a number of things. So there are at least 4 meetings in that list, in my opinion.
Mr. Allen has his hand up, sir.
Mr. Allen.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you. Yeah, I also want to echo the bike aspect. I know we're going to handle that, but I wanted to throw my coin in the jar, so to speak, on that subject. I would love to go back out and see the site again. I know it's COVID, but I'd be willing to drive out there separate. Last time we were there was no water in the park, or in the reservoir, so maybe we could consider having kind of an ad hoc meeting out there where we could walk around and just look at it again. That's one thing I wanted to throw out there, and it's not on the agenda item. And then as far as the agenda, my comments would be the overview. I mean, I feel like we've been over this project for a year. So personally, I think we could do the overview, where we are and how we got here in 10 minutes, just throwing a number out there. So I would rather have something super fast on that and maybe focus on the remaining milestones. But I don't think we need a lot of background. I'm just speaking for myself personally, and just get running on the budget process and maybe some of the other items. That's my 2 cents.
Well, that's a very good suggestion. So let me ask staff, Carla and others, whether at our next meeting we could do items 1 and 2, even if we had to go a little bit over an hour.
Well, again, I think item 2, budget, I mean, I don't think that's going to be a long, drawn out presentation. I think we can go through where we are for sure. We have 2 more cost estimates to do as we move through this construction documentation phase. So I feel like we could definitely, to Mr. Allen's point, overview the first 2, A and B, very quick. Remaining milestones, I think you do want to spend a little time on that to understand what's left. I think we can certainly talk about the budget and where we are and what we're doing to refine that. And then we could get into the discussion topics. I mean, one way we could do it is we cover as much as we can. I mean, we go through schedule. Maybe if there's not a lot of discussion or questions about that, then we go on to site specifics. I mean, we can be prepared to whatever level you would like us to be. I do think education is probably a meeting in itself. I think you are right about that. So I think if we took the first 3 and start with that, that might be beneficial.
Yeah. So let's plan at least on a 75 to 90-minute meeting then, for planning purposes.
Yeah, we'll do our best to keep that hour in mind. But again, it'll be based on discussion and question, and we can stop at any point.
Our board never talks much.
Well, we'll be prepared to again stop at any point and come back to the next meeting wherever we left off. I don't think it's critical that we get through everything in meeting 1.
All right. So we're here at the end. We're here at the end of the month. And if I don't hear any objection, let's plan the next meeting to do items 1, 2, and 3.
I have one comment.
Sure.
It seems to me that one of the things we need to do is identify the critical path. Now, I'm not saying we should rush this project, but we need to get it moving. And we should concentrate on those items that are really critical to keep the thing moving. I mean, a lot of the background is good, but I think there seems to be an underestimate or under emphasis on the critical path. That's all I had to say.
Mr.
Chairman, that-
Bonfils, I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell has his hand up, and then Mr. Hamas.
Please, let's go in that order.
Thanks. I just want to say I agree with Dale's comments about maybe digging into some of these more in detail. These are very broad topics, so I agree with that. And also want to echo Terry's comments. I'd definitely be up for a site visit again. It's outdoors, so I'd be very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And also agreed with Marty's comments about getting you know, the Potomac peddlers or Mike Loudon or whoever else. You know, that's great, and it's probably worth tackling the bike stuff in one meeting, or having that be the primary topic. You know, the county did a study. I think it was Kimley Horn. I don't know if staff has it. I've got it somewhere, but they did a study specifically on the bike infrastructure, the ped infrastructure around the metro. It includes our whole reservoir here. And so already a lot of work's been done, but it'd be good to incorporate some of that and discuss that. So I would recommend that one of our meetings here, and one of the earlier meetings would be my preference, that we devote that meeting to talking about the biking and all of that. I looked at the plans. I think we've got nine bike racks shown on our plans currently, and so I think it'd be good to deal with that sooner rather than later.
Okay.
Mr. Hamas.
Mr. Hamas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Mr. Sultan's point, part of the overview, and the reason it's first, C there, remaining milestones, was going to be to lay out a schedule of when, in the process of design, we'll have more information for the committee to digest and comment and act on. For example, right early on, I think you probably could start talking about some of the finishes that would be a part of number 3. You could start talking about some of the things like the bike racks and things of that nature early on. But some of the other matters, we're not through the site plan process at the county yet. There'll be a second submission coming up. That might inform us in other ways. When is that going to happen? So the critical path of this project is going to be informed in part by the overview process. And you'll get a better understanding when better information is coming forward for you to consider and act on.
Thank you. Is anyone? No one else has a hand up? Jewel. Okay, I see it.
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead. Sorry. Items 1, 2, and 3 for the next meeting. Maybe go into some detail. Actually go into some detail, and then we like to try and schedule a visit. I forget, because I go out there a couple times a week, that other people do not. So we should schedule that. Yeah, matter of fact, the last time I was out at the dam itself, the gantry to the spillway was still there. It's not anymore. So yeah, it'd be good to go out and see that. I'll send some pictures to a couple of you that I have taken over the last couple weekends. It's going to start looking pretty nice out there with the color change. So let's Jewel, try and propose some times to go out there during the day for the committee.
Will do.
All right. So our next meeting, we needed to select a date or some. So how do we determine a date, gentlemen? There's a lot of meetings out there. We could do this. Have Jewel send out a note with a couple proposed dates and see if folks can make it, or we can decide now.
Jim,
I think I'd rather have, this is Marty, I think I'd rather have her send a couple of dates so that we can figure out when to meet.
All right, that's good. I'm good with that. I'll work with Jewel and get that email out, in the next day or so.
Mr. Bonfield, Mr. Koblis, and Mr. Allen have their hands up, sir.
Mr. Allen?
Yeah, I would just point out that 30 days from now is Thanksgiving, so I know Jewel will take that in mind, scheduling the meeting, but just an FYI, we might have to do it in 3 weeks as opposed to a month. Otherwise, we'd be doing it in 5 weeks.
Well, let's see. So Thanksgiving is the 26th of November.
I'm scratch that. I'm having a senior moment.
So and I don't, and my calendar shows that's open.
No,
If you
yeah,
want to have the
yeah.
meeting that day, we probably could do that. But,
Time goes faster for me than everybody else.
if Thanksgiving early at the Allen household.
oh well, then they must be doing Canadian Thanksgiving, which is around our Columbus Day.
I was thinking
Indigenous Day weekend.
Halloween, you guys.
So I
if I could, I think our recommendation would be to do a meeting sooner rather than later. Again, to just keep things moving, and I think that we can prepare and be flexible with the committee schedule. But again, to keep things moving, I think we'll want to give dates sooner rather than later.
Can I make a suggestion, please? Why don't we just have it after the finance meeting? Usually the finance meeting is not a long meeting and we can just roll right into it.
I'm comfortable with that.
That's fine.
When's the next finance meeting? I'm looking on my calendar and I don't see it.
I believe it's the Thursday, the 22nd.
I'm double checking. Hold on just 1 second.
Yes.
Yeah, the invite hasn't gone out yet, but it's probably the 22nd.
It's the 22nd, yes.
And
it is going to be the 22nd, yes.
So you would want to schedule it at 9 o'clock after your finance meeting?
Oh, I'm just making a suggestion. I'm it's up to you all.
It's not a bad suggestion. 22nd, is not a bad date. Let's Jewel will send that date out and maybe an alternate, and then we'll I think sooner rather than later. That's a good that looks like a good week for that. There's not many other meetings that I see that week other than the finance. So that's a good suggestion. So we'll work on that, and then we're going to do items 1 through 3 with some concentration on some detail, as Dale had pointed out. Dale and Marty and Mr. Allen. Is there anything else?
Jim, it's Brent Campbell.
Yes.
Picking up on what Carla said, 22nd, which I'm totally comfortable to meet, then that's 3 weeks out. I would be comfortable meeting even between now and then, just to keep this thing moving. So it's up to the rest of the group how frequently everybody wants to meet and how much time they have. But I'd be comfortable having another meeting between now and then. 3 weeks is pretty, and this is how things get drug out many months.
Yeah, the 14th and 15th, the 2 weeks is fine for me too. So why don't we work on some of those dates?
What we can have Jewel do is send option, a second option that is sooner than 3 weeks.
Yep.
And maybe we put both on your calendar because we want, again, to keep it moving. If that's good for the whole committee, we can move forward that way too. The agenda, of course, for the second meeting will be based on what happens at the first meeting, but at least we would have dates on the calendar.
Yeah, and so if we wanted to do it next week, would staff be available and be able to be prepared for next week?
you know, I I don't know what to say because
There's a lot of stuff on that list. So
yeah.
I'd
You know,
rather-
we probably could. Let me converse with them, and if
Okay.
we think we can't converse with all those involved, and if we think we can, then that will be the option that we
Right.
send out.
all righty, then we can pick 3 options, one each week, and then see what we do. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm available. You know, now that these are all virtual, it makes them easy. But we did accomplish in this meeting to get the charter approved, and then that'll be submitted at the next board meeting for full board ratification, and then we're off and running.
Mr. Bonfils, I
Yes.
apologize, but I believe we neglected to put the charter on either consent or action, sir.
Having not put it on consent, let's assume it's on action.
Thank you, sir.
Without objection from any board members?
No, I'm okay with it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Bonfils, we won't plan on making the same presentation on the charter unless you ask us to do so, but we can certainly, highlight what's in there or just assume that the members have read it if it's on action.
Let's do that, and then we'll leave it to you and the chair for planning.
Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to mention was on the site visit that you can coordinate. Doesn't make any difference, but I do want to throw out there, if more than 2 of you are going at one time, that becomes a public meeting. We can coordinate 2 at a time if you want, or it doesn't matter. We can go through the notification process for a public meeting if you want to go out there as a group.
Mark, as chair, do you think that there's a wider interest for the board to go out to the site?
Absolutely.
So maybe we need to consider having a meeting where more than just 2 can go.
Okay, we'll get that out there.
Yeah. Maybe Mark, you can coordinate that. Is that called delegating up? But I do be more people.
Hey, Carla, could you coordinate that, please?
And so it goes back down. Thank you.
I don't think up or down has any meaning here.
Classic passing the buck.
Jewel can coordinate that with, and I will delegate that to Jewel to coordinate with all of the members.
We'll work with Jewel. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Don't forget about Thanksgiving.
We won't. Well, it's not. I know we're the next item is adjournment, but I had one other question because I was planning something for the 11th of November, I guess it is, for Veterans Day. Are we going to do the event for the employee veterans that we have this year with COVID and all that?
No, we are not doing an on-site celebration of our veterans, but we are going to provide a drive-through breakfast, similar to what we've done with our essential workers for lunch. And they'll come by and get their breakfast box and be on their way.
Great, that's great. I've been to most of them that we've held in the last 4 years, so I was curious about that. That's all that I have today. Does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I guess we can make it a unanimous vote.
Mr. Allen?
I'm going to say yes.
Mr. Bonfils?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
And Mr. Sultan?
I'm going to be different. I'm going to say yes.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Meeting's adjourned.
I want to thank everybody. Thank everybody who presented and prepared the slides. We really appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks. Goodbye.
Bye.